Hello, computer fans out there. Today we're going to be talking about networking in Linux. And networking in Linux, as you know, and as we will go over in a little bit later in the video, is made up of hosts connected together. Any computer connected to a network is called a host. And the way we reassign or rename computer names in Linux, we have to change what they call the host files. There are two of them, and I will cover how to change the names of both of them, but by renaming the computer, basically you are renaming its host name within the network that other network computer hosts see. So that's why I underlined the word host in the intro slide. My host might not be as famous as the one you're about to see, but I like to have a little fun with these things. So in a minute we will be talking about computer hosts.
My dear guests, I am Mr. Rourke, your host. Welcome to Fantasy Island.
So here we are at our terminal window. And of course you see studio at studio dash virtual dash machine. This tilde right here is our home directory. That tells us that we're at our home directory. In Linux everyone has one. The $sign tells us the kind of user we are. It's a regular user. In Linux, as you know, there's two types of users. There's regular users and then there's root. Root is the super user. We very seldom use root. In fact, you need a special password for that. This is Linux Mint, which we're using, version 17.1, which no one can log in as root. So what they do is they provide root access using the sudo command. But that's the topic for another video. What we need to do now is we need to get to our host name and hosts file, because those two files determine our system name right here. Okay, that's it. That's what we want to change. So you remember in Linux, you have your Linux file structure. You have root, and then under root you have a few other subdirectories, one of them being the etc or etc subdirectory. That's where most of your configuration files are, things of that nature. So what we are going to do is, the first thing we have to do to get access to our host files is to get to the etc subdirectory. So we use the change directory command. In Linux, it's cd space. Okay, now remember that in Linux, unlike in Windows, you kind of have to type the entire path. You can't just sort of jump around. It's a little easier in Windows, but Linux is more specific. Gets a little getting used to, but once you master it, it can be a lot more powerful. So to do it in Linux, we need our slash, our /, okay, because that's root. And then directly under root, we have our etc. We hit enter, and sure enough, there's our system prompt. And you could see now our slash, our etc, and our $sign right there. Okay, that's where we're at. Okay, we're in the etc subdirectory. Well, now we want to see what's going on in that subdirectory. So we would do that using the list command, or ls. And there's many options to go with the ls command. You could have it wide, you could have it where it shows hidden files, you could have it where it shows other information. One of my personal favorites is the /l command, because that gives you permissions, subdirectories, directories, a lot of other file size. Okay, and here it is, and you see it kind of ran off the screen. That's no problem because of the fact that we're in a terminal emulator and not a true TTY. We could scroll back. But you see, these are the permissions, which will be the subject of another video. This is the owner information here, the file size, the date and time flags. The blues are more, subdirectories. The regular whites are files. Linux is color-coded. And just to show you what we're going to be after, if we scroll up, Okay, if we scroll up, you see these two file names right here. Okay, host name and hosts. Those are the two that are going to determine what we work with. There's an hosts.conf, which is for something else. These two host files are for allowing and denying other domains to connect to your system. That's the topic for a later video. But we're going to focus on these two. So what we're going to do is we're going to use, first I'm going to sort of get my system prompt back. I just did that by hitting the escape key, and I'm back at my system prompt. Now, what I want to do, I want to clear the screen, so we have kind of like a fresh field of view. Now, unlike Windows, okay, and this is very confusing, sometimes even to me, when you use Linux and Windows both, because they're so opposite each other, it can be a little confusing. But once you get the hang of it, it's a lot easier. You type in the word clear, C-L-E-A-R. Okay, it didn't take the C. My keyboard might be a little dirty. C-L-E-A-R, clear. And I hit enter, boom. You see, nice clean screen. Okay, so we now have a nice clear screen, and we are sitting in our etc subdirectory. Now, one thing I do want to point out to you is the concept of permissions. Remember the tilde. We are logged in as a regular user. In order to edit a system file, you need to have administrative privileges. You have to own the file. And the way you could check that out is if you remember when I used the ls command with the /l option, it gave us the permissions. So let's do an ls space /l, and we're going to type in host name, all lowercase, L-N-A-M-E. You hit enter. Okay, you see what it says right here? Okay, read write for the owner, which would be root, which we're not logged in as. The group would be read, and everybody else would be read. So if we tried to edit this file, it wouldn't really work. Okay, there are many text editors available. There's gedit, which I prefer and which I'm going to use for this demonstration because it is the easiest. I do want to tell you, for the certification exam, they hit you on the VI editor. There's a whole chapter in the book about it, and that's all the exam knows. So if you're going for certification, study up on VI. Okay, this video isn't about text editors, it's about changing the name. So I'm going to use gedit because it's the easiest, and if you do get certified, or even if you don't get certified, if you use Linux, you're probably going to be using gedit a lot more than Vi. Vi is kind of an older version. Vi and Vim are basically the same thing. So because we need administrative privileges, we're going to have to use what they call the sudo command, S-U-D-O. That stands for super user do. And it sort of gives you, for one command, root privileges. Then after the command is done, you're a regular user again. It prevents unauthorized people from messing up the machine. So we type in, again, all lowercase. Linux commands are all lowercase. File names can be uppercase, but they're different file names than if they were lowercase. We type in sudo for sudo, and then we type in the name of the file we want to change, which is hostname, host name. Okay, it asks you for our password. Very important, because this is the protection right here. Now you notice as I type, you hear me typing, but you don't see anything on the screen. That again is one of the reasons why Linux is so much more secure than anything else, because you can't count the number of characters. Someone who's looking over your shoulder can't get a hint by counting the little circles, because nothing shows up. They have no idea how long it is. Okay, and so now what I do is I typed in my password here, I guess another edit point. So I type in sudo for sudo, okay, and then I have to type in my command, okay, very important. I have to type in my command. So I type in gedit, get it, or gedit, and then the file name, host name. I hit enter. And wow, look what I get. Doesn't that look familiar? This is one of the things that makes gedit so much easier, is that it's a GUI, graphical user interface based text editor. You see, we have one name here, the name of the machine. That's easy. We want to edit that. So right now it's Studio Virtual Machine. What do we want to name it to? We could, again, just like in Windows, if we wanted to, we could just kind of do our thing here, and I'm going to call it a video virtual machine, okay, and all lowercase, video dash virtual machine, okay. We hit save, okay, and we're basically done with that video virtual machine, okay. We close out of that file, and that one's done. So we're halfway home. Now what we want to do, we want to do the same thing for the hosts file. So we type in sudo space GED, IT, okay, get it, and then HOSTS. Okay, now you see this file looks a little different. For those of you that know networking, you see this 127.0.0.1 local host. That's our what they call loopback address. In Networks Plus, you learn all about it. Okay, here this 127.0.1.1, that's this machine. Okay, it's not the loopback, but it's actually the host of the loopback address. This stuff is for IPv6, which we're not going to get into for this course because we're mainly talking about IVP4, IPv4. Gets a little with the letters. And you see the name here, Studio Virtual Machine, and so we're going to go ahead and we're going to rename that to video. Okay, video virtual machine. And we're going to save that. Okay, so we're going to exit out of that. I just kind of I like to check everything and make sure that it's all consistent, just in case you make any mistakes. A way to print a file or type it to the screen in Linux is to use the cat command, C-A-T. So I hit cat host name, and it basically prints out the one line, video virtual machine. Okay, if I type out cat hosts, okay, you see right here, you have video virtual machine right there, and you have video virtual machine right here. Because when this is going to go into effect when I reboot the machine, because it reads all the configuration files on boot up. So we won't actually see the change. You see, I'm still on my old system prompt down here until we reboot. When we reboot, I don't want any conflicts. I want to make sure these are exactly the same. Okay, so at this point, we know our files are changed. We can exit out of our terminal. Okay, you could either do that by the X or you could do the old-fashioned way and type in the word exit, and we're back in the graphical user interface. What we will now do is we are going to restart Linux, and when we go into the terminal, we should see the new name appear at that point. So we go to menu, okay, and we go to restart. Okay, Linux is now going through the reboot process. I'm using VMware, as you saw. And It's going through the reboot process right now. So we'll just wait and give it a few seconds. Sometimes making computer videos, I don't have the equipment yet to do time lapse, so we kind of have to go with the speed of the machine. And here I get my studio is just the name of my little setup here. I type in my password. Notice here you do get the little dots. It's only on the sudo that you don't. So now it's going to log me in. So I am now logged in, and we are almost finished. If I go to the terminal, and I click on the terminal, we see the new system prompt. There's our change right there. Okay, Studio, you remember, was the name of my little setup that I used to create this. So that's sort of embedded in the system. But before where it said studio at studio-virtual machine tilde $, it now says studio at video-virtualmachine.com. So there is our change right there, and now we have changed the way the entire network will see the name of this particular host machine. And that is how you manipulate host names in networking with Linux. Thank everybody. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned a lot.